All right. Thank you so much, Lisa, for taking the time to be with me today. In case you're watching this and you're not sure who I am, I'm Reverend Erin-Ashley. I'm the founder of Spiritual Mechanic, and I have one of the grads of my program, Pro Psychic Mechanics, Lisa Wolf, who was in the very first round, actually, in 2015, I believe. And so, Lisa, thank you so much for being here. And for just a minute, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Sure. Well, now I am a spiritual teacher, a coach, and I run a membership site which helps spiritual seekers to explore the non-physical universe.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you've been doing this professionally since you took the PPM course, right?
Well, I started professionally in March of 2016.
Oh, good.
Right. So before that, I was doing a lot of practicing and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do.
Yes, excellent, excellent. And I think that's really smart because I think, especially whenever we're tapping into our spiritual gifts, it's really easy to feel pressure to know exactly what it's going to look like at the end, even though a huge part of it is just playing with it. So that's wonderful. Great. So what is it that what's your website, number one, and what do you mostly focus on in your work?
My website is lisacwolf.com. And what I mostly focus on is taking people who have nascent powers, who are feeling their intuition, who know they're drawn to it. But my clients tend to be kind of left-brain people. I have a lot of, lawyers and scientists and therapists and real estate agents who are drawn to spirituality, but they really can't get with the glittery unicorn, forgive me, Erin-Ashley, the what I call the wobbly woo, right? Which is, what I'm saying, the spiritual bypass.
Of course. And in case you're not familiar, I love to put digital glitter on my cats. So I'm kind of obsessed with glitter. But I think that brings up a really good point. Not every spiritual practitioner is for every single person. In that, there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a really wonderful thing, because could you imagine being in charge of 7 billion people's spiritual journeys? That's a lot. That's a lot.
Absolutely. And different teachers who have different takes on it are absolutely crucial right now, because so many people are waking up on the planet, and perhaps they won't listen to it unless it's stated in a certain way. So the more spiritual teachers, the better, I say.
And I agree. So I'd love to know just a little bit about your journey as you went through the course, and then where you are now. So take us back to 2015, and that's whenever I was offering this. Was my very first time offering it. And what initially kind of drew you, because we hopped on the phone for a discovery call, what initially drew you to even scheduling that call?
Well, what happened, I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years. And so at that time, I was coming out of my last business, which I had to shut down because I moved. And I was very unsure about what I was going to do. I was drawn to spirituality, but we met in a spiritual group. And to be absolutely truthful, I figured probably a lot of people in there were completely nuts, but I was interested enough to start to explore it. And we had talked on the phone because when I was a personal trainer, we were talking about your knee or squats or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I trusted you, and I knew that you're a very down-to-earth, straightforward person. So at that time, I thought I was going to be a coach. And when I saw you put up the offering, I immediately dismissed it because I had no interest in becoming a professional psychic. But it kept surfacing for me, and every time it did, I would get tingles all over my body. And I had been attuned to Reiki, I think, a few months before. So the tingling was a new thing. It was as if the attunement started that process. Mm-hmm. But when I kept thinking, it kept coming into my head that I needed to take this course, and it made no sense to me whatsoever. because it was not part of my career path. I can guarantee you.
Yes.
So I remember I got in touch with you and I said, I can't figure out why, but I feel really compelled to take your class. But I have no intention of becoming a professional psychic. That was like my mantra.
It was. Yeah.
But in the course of talking to you, you know, the tingling intensified to the point where I've only felt that strongly a couple of times since. But it was intense. It could not be denied at all. And it was the clearest message I've ever gotten.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so even though you had the tingling, which thankfully is a really nice, clear signal from the universe, like, hey, this is the right direction. And I love it whenever we get that. Did you still have any hesitations about joining?
Well, sure, because, you know, I knew that I was an intuitive person. There was no question about that. But I was just reticent to explore it more because, for one thing, it didn't have anything to do with my career trajectory, I thought.
Yeah.
I figured, okay, well, maybe it'll help me to improve my intuition. But I really couldn't see a good reason to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my hesitation was mainly WTF.
And so your hesitation was WTF. You got really clear intuitive hit to do it, and
Yeah.
you decided to go ahead and do it.
Yes.
Okay. And then from there, you got in the course, and we still have monthly calls. At the time, we had weekly calls. So what was it where the light bulb kind of turned on and you realized that you were doing this? Did that happen in the course or after?
Well, I remember in the early modules, and I know you've switched it around since, but we were working on chakras, on reading chakras, and then doing basic, you know, psychic readings.
Yeah.
And I remember you told me that I was really good at it. But I was still pretty much like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I did recognize at that point, you know, for instance, I was a personal trainer for 5 years, but 1 month into it, I was really, really good. I could tell what physical afflictions people had when they came into the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I thought it was just because I was really smart. And that's a pretty typical claircognizant sort of thing, right?
I wasn't going to say it, but yes.
Yeah. And so I knew that that had been there. And so I was still kind of, okay, you know, it's interesting to develop it. But it's when you taught the module on shamanic healing. And the first healing that I did, seriously, it was like in the movies where the clouds part and the angels start singing, and my guides were having a party in there and they were welcoming me. And I was just so overcome with emotion. And I knew immediately that energy healing was what I was supposed to be doing. And it was an incredible experience because I've had probably 7 different careers. I've done everything from politics to nonprofit fundraising to catering to personal training. And it was a very restless kind of energy where I was searching for something that would give me the fulfillment that I needed. And once I did the shamanic healing, it was very clear that that was the path that I had been waiting for my entire life. And in a certain sense, everything started falling into place, and I started realizing, oh, and this realization continued and expanded later, and I began to realize that everything that I had done was to prepare me for this.
Yes.
Right. But that was the beginning where I said, I don't know what this is or what I'm doing or where I'm going, but this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yes. And that's still in module 2. So that is, you know, I kept that in module 2 partially because of your experience, but also because people who went through the program after that had the exact same experience. You know, I train so many people now, and it's so common whenever someone's called to be an energy healer, They do the shamanic journey, and the way that I teach it, they go into a cave, which it sometimes changes over time. But at the beginning, lead them to a cave. And I can't tell you how many people have had that experience of just having a party, because the guides have been there. They've been waiting. They've been ready, and the call is out. And so all they were doing was waiting for you specifically to just say yes and honor it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then about my dive into all of the readings, because at that time I don't think that you told us a specific number to do.
At that time I did not, because at that point I thought there would be more variation than there ended up being. At that time I thought, well, okay, if someone comes to me and they've already done readings for a bit, maybe they'll only need 10. Now I recommend 50. With the rare exception of someone who's already professional, already charging, and then they realize they're just missing a couple key skills, then I have a slightly different recommendation. But anyone else, 50, that's your minimum.
Yeah. Well, I was a maniac because I did 70 in 2 months. But I did it because I really needed to immerse myself, and I actually just turned off my left brain for those 2 months. And normally I'm a big researcher, and I look really carefully into things. And in this case, I just suspended it and I let the guides teach me. And it was fascinating because I don't know if you remember, but at a certain point, they took me away from the healing cave. My conduit guide grabbed me by the hand and started dragging me out. And I got in touch with you and I said, "What's happening?" And you said, "It's fine. It's fine. They're just showing you around." And yeah. And it was fascinating though, because they were showing me different levels, right, of the non-physical universe. And so when I came out of the ethers and started to do the research on shamanism, I looked at, I think it was Michael Harner's work, who's done shamanic journeys with thousands of Westerners. And he had them draw diagrams of the non-physical. And I was able to look at the diagrams and say, oh my God, yes, this is where they were taking me.
Yeah.
So it was I needed that confirmation.
Yes. And that's one thing that I feel like PPM does a very good job of, is I don't teach what it should look like. I give basic signposts to make sure that someone's in appropriate vibration, the basic for energetic health. But as soon as we have the basic structures, everyone's gift is so unique that I have found trying to tell people what it's supposed to look like is almost always counterproductive, because you were supposed to navigate those shamanic realms. You absolutely were called to. And it's just been, I remember at the time I don't remember whether it was a phone call or an email, but I remember talking to you and just being like, okay, not an issue. They're trying to show you something is going to be a part of your path and it's going to be important, and that's it. Because that's all you needed that's it.
Yeah, it's amazing because I just needed the permission to allow them to show me.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I wanted to say something else, but I can't remember at the moment what it is. So maybe keep going and I'll remember. Oh, I know what it was. It was the group readings, because I found one of the most useful things about PPM was the readings in which everyone did a reading on the same person. And I describe this to my clients now, because I remember that each person got a different reading, but it added up to a whole. And so the way that I describe it is, it's like the 8 blind men and the elephant, where each is getting sort of a piece of the energy, right? And between it, you can construct the entire thing. It's really, but having the other people sense the same things that I was, right? And understanding how different everyone handles the energy, I think is really important, because I think some people going into energy work might be a little bit dogmatic. Well, this is the way that I did it, so this is the way that I'm going to teach it, rather than realizing, as I did in the group, how differently people process and interpret the energies that are coming in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is something that I will announce now, but it is going to be one of the bonuses, is I'm going to open up a small number of those over the next few months. It'll be basically be one a month in July, August, and September. And there's going to be 2 readings and an energy healing. It's going to be limited spots. So the people who, sign up first get to have access. You can only sign up, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to structure it. It'll depend on how many people are in the course. I can handle about 7 people on a call, right? But everyone gets at least one shot at doing it. And then if we have extra room, people can redo and do more than one. But each time I do this, I do like to add that because whenever I have the opportunity, that's whenever the ahas happen. I've seen it so many times. People will doubt themselves. They'll even get amazing testimonials. I have clients who have done 50 readings and have testimonials at the wazoo, which is something I teach how to do in the course. And they have 20 to 30 testimonials after 50 practice sessions, which is really good. And then they will still have those doubts. Well, what if ... And as soon as you realize that everyone's picking up the same thing, it always disappears. It always disappears.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's very valuable to have people do 50.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And so I'd love to get your view on it now. Now you've been out of the program for multiple years. And you have consistently, we've stayed in touch, and you've consistently sent people to the program every time I've opened the doors. So I'd love to know why you recommend it, even after, I think it's been almost 3-something years. Why do you still send people here, and what do you feel it has done for you?
I trust you as a teacher. And let me say that I'm not an affiliate for any other program. So I would not affiliate with somebody that I didn't agree with wholeheartedly. And the reason that I sent people is because you're very good at breaking things down into very manageable pieces. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I love having people who have worked with you, because then I don't have to teach them. And I can do the work that I'm good at, which is the encouraging and the mentoring right afterward.
Right.
Because that's what really excites me. Is I like to see people, I like to work with people who are fledgling energy workers. Or even, I had somebody take the course the last time, and she's not going to become a professional psychic, but she quit the soul-sucking career that I had been suggesting to her she quit. And now she's doing something completely different.
Right. Yeah.
But I know that the course was instrumental in her being able to open up and really listen and not count on other people to deliver messages.
And that's wonderful. And that's just wonderful. I love hearing that, because a couple reasons. First off, I love doing this teaching part. I love breaking it down into pieces. And then once it gets to a certain point, I'm kind of like mom bird in the nest, like fly, fly. And then we're good. That's kind of how I envision it. It's like, okay, you did your 50 practice sessions. You sent out your first emails, your sales page is good. Go for it. And then, they can go to you or anyone else they feel called to, and I can continue to focus on what I enjoy, which is
exactly
teaching the foundations, the basics, helping people recognize their own gifts, and giving them full permission to simply honor their calling, especially when it doesn't look like other professionals.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, and so it's been a really nice partnership to send people to you and then have them emerge. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so if someone's on the fence about this, they kind of feel like their spirit is calling them and saying yes, and yet they have the doubts, the hesitance, and especially if they have that self-doubt, what would you say to them?
I think that my hesitation was that I didn't want to get roped into something that wasn't me, right? Because me, and a lot of people have a certain image of what a psychic is, right? Which is kind of, a crazy looking person in a turban with a crystal ball, right? Or whatever. And I had weird experiences with psychics, right? Not good ones. So I really didn't want to be roped into something that wasn't in alignment with my soul. And I also, I was worried about the whole label of being a psychic, right? Because it's not a good label necessarily in many circles.
Right.
But what I realized is that this was not a course where I was going to have to adopt somebody else's belief system. This was a course which allowed me to come to the core of what I believed. And so I've been able to develop a business which is I haven't followed anybody else's prescriptions. And I think that that's what's so great about your course, is that it's not dogmatic at all. It really just opens the door. It opens the door and you're free to walk through or not. And that's why it was so good for me. And the other thing is I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But now, I have the example of this one client who is not a professional psychic, will never be, but the course allowed her to make contact with the non-physical in a way that she wasn't able to before.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much. And yeah, so the program, part of why I designed it that way is two reasons. Number one, I found that whenever I was attempting to learn, I ran into so much dogma that it felt like it covered up the gifts versus uncovering the gifts. And that's the opposite direction that I wanted to go whenever I was doing my own trainings. Because I haven't had someone go through this course. No two people have the same gifts going through this course. It may be more than one person is a psychic, but one might end up being an Akashic reader, and another might be exceptional at finding lost items, for instance, and another one might be very good at connecting with those who have crossed over with deceased loved ones. And I don't teach Akashic records, I don't teach necessarily, I teach the very, very basics of mediumship, but nothing in depth. All of those were innate. Every person who has a spiritual calling has a very specific calling. And the only thing that's required is getting a connection, honoring the path, and learning enough foundations to where you can fully trust the process, yourself, and the guides that are chosen to guide you. And if you can get that, you're good to go. And then I added the business training because everyone was getting stuck on the exact same spots with the business part. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, the course is so much bigger.
Yeah.
And so exhaustive. I'm totally shocked at how little you're charging. I will just say that right now.
Yes. Well, I wanted to make it more accessible, because the number one thing that I got whenever I was doing the mentorships, the way that I did whenever I was with you, is that people really wanted to join and they couldn't afford it. Like they still wanted to eat that month, and they wanted to eat the next month too. And I totally got it. Like it wasn't, I want to make sure that the price is not going to be the deciding factor. I want to make sure that the deciding factor is whether it calls to people. I want to make sure that it's enough that people invest and can honor the fact that it's an investment, but not so much that I'm excluding people. Highly sensitive people historically, we're highly sensitive. We tend to be more reactive. A lot of us struggle with abundance issues and money issues, and trying to navigate society that has created an unhealthy dynamic around money. And so I want to make sure, again, that the price point is such that it honors all people involved, and especially the sensitives that the world is calling for right now. I want to make it as much as I try to stay away from the good deal dynamic, like, is this right for you or not? That's where I tend to stay. I want to make sure this is a good enough deal that those who are called to it don't have the money objection as much as we can avoid it.
Right, right.
So thank you so much for sharing with me today, Lisa. And you also had some bonuses for those who feel called to work with you as well. Could you go ahead and share what those bonuses are?
Sure. I'm doing two things when people sign up through me. Either I'm giving them 2 1-hour calls, which are either readings or energy healings, whatever needs to be done. One at the beginning and one at the end, or whenever it fits in. Or the other one that I just came up with is a discount of the price of the course from a 6-month mentorship. And I'm really excited to do that because it's essentially what I've been doing anyway, but it's bundling it together. Because when people are first starting out, there are certain things that just come up. And so I really enjoy being able to go in depth and really hold them for that period of time. So yeah, so that's the new package that I just came up with.
Well, that sounds wonderful. And if you were watching this and you didn't get it from a link of Lisa's, where can they contact you to make sure that they're using your link so that they can get those bonuses?
They can reach me at lisa@lisacwolf.com or through my website, which is lisacwolf.com. Or my Facebook page, because I hang out there a lot.
Wonderful. All right. So now you know how to contact her if you decide those are bonuses that you want to grab. And thank you, Lisa, again, for sharing your journey and sharing a little bit more about this course and how it's helped.
Oh, you are so welcome, Erin-Ashley.
Thank you.